hello everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Vassals of Kingsgrave MCU chat here. We'll be discussing the Disney Plus series Loki, which finished up a couple weeks ago, and had some pretty big implications for the MCU as a whole going forward into its next phase. My name is Adam, also known as drownedsnow on the Discord and the interwebs and whatnot. And today I am joined by David.
Hi, David HHH on the forums. Welcome, everyone. Or on whatever the hell we're calling it.
Whatever,
now.
yeah.
The Discord, the everything.
In the ether, whatever. Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
And Kevin. No longer creepy Kevin.
Kevin, Nuncle Kevin.
Okay, so let's just start off by saying this was a 6-episode limited series, which is actually going to be getting a second season, we've discovered, which I guess they announced that before. This is the first show that for sure is getting another season, so that'll be interesting. And let's see, I think Winter Soldier was also 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
Kind of short seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So what would you guys, how many paperweight Infinity Stones would you give Loki out of 6, right?
Yeah.
Out of 6?
Out of 6. Yeah.
We're changing it up.
Mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think I would give it the Time Stone for sure. Soul Stone, yes. Power Stone, yes. Reality Stone, yes. Now I'm blanking on the others.
Yeah, I was about to say,
I was going to say, did you Google those? Did you Google those?
Space Stone, no. And which one am I forgetting?
Say mind.
Mind, definitely not the Mind Stone. Yeah, so 4 out of 6. I thought it was a lot of fun. Like it definitely was one of the ones that I thought benefited greatly from like the episodic release.
Mm-hmm.
Like that really made this one fun. Because you just knew there was chaos at the end, in a way that maybe didn't seem quite as inevitable. It didn't seem quite as inevitable with the others. Like it was very obvious there was some greatness at the end of this, some big reveal, and I thought it built the tension well. Each week was enjoyable. Even the one that people complained about at the time, where they were just on the planet, I thought was a lot of fun to see Loki and Evie's relationship build, and I loved it. But I didn't love it enough for 6 Infinity Stones, so I'm gonna stop talking.
Snapping half the universe, I get it.
Yep.
What about you, David?
I'll give it 5 out of 6. It was definitely enjoyable. It kept my attention the whole time. I liked the characters. I was actually going into it not really looking forward to it like some people were. Like, I don't care that much. I never cared that much about Loki as a character, but they made me care about him as a character and what was going on with him, and certainly the implications for the Marvel Universe. It set up lots of stuff to come. It's got me wanting more, so it's done its job, I guess. It's not perfect, but it's enjoyable, and I'm glad I watched it. And I'm looking forward to season 2 and the rest of the MCU. And Kang.
Kang's going to be interesting. Matt.
So yeah, this is by far my favorite of the 3. I'm tempted to give it the full 6. I really enjoyed it. I could take, a few, like a quarter point off, like a 5.75, just for the silly argument that people were making about the episodic nature, albeit at a more reasonable interpretation of it, where for me, like episodes 1 and 2, great standalone episodes. And then I just think episodes 3 and 4 worked best as a pair, and the same thing with episodes 5 and 6. That would be like my one knock on it. But yeah, overall, it was definitely my favorite. And it's interesting thinking about it, because I know one of the reasons why is because they just kind of went for it. Whereas, the first two, with Wanda and with Falcon, they had some very specific themes that they wanted to touch, whether it was grief in one, or race and all that in the other. And so I don't want to say that I enjoyed it more just because this was silly fun, but I think with the first two, the degree of difficulty was much higher than this one. That could just kind of go with it and just do whatever they felt like and build on this crazy universe that was going to come in Phase 4. However, the point I'll make with this is that they voluntarily kind of upped the degree of difficulty with how they chose to run this finale, because all storytelling conventions and history and all that would tell you that you should not do this with what they did with the finale, which is why like a lot of people were they were hopeful going into it, but they were just like skeptical. It's like there's no way that they can just throw Kang in here without like yes, there were a ton of references to him going through the start of the season, but like his name never came up, including in the finale. They never said his name.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things that were like people were skeptical that they would really just go for that, but they did. And for me, I thought they nailed it, and this show hinges on that. Like for me, as to whether or not you liked that performance and the 40 minutes of monologue. Like, and that's an incredibly tough thing for a performer to pull off. And oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. What? Yeah, I love Jonathan. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There you go. Love
Yeah, let's
Jonathan
just
Majors,
start praising him now, because holy crap.
Right.
Have
I
y'all
love Craft Country? Like, it was great.
Right.
have y'all seen the story that he got the part as Kang, but didn't have this part, and then just showed up to audition for this separately? Because
Oh, really?
No, I have not
Yeah.
heard that.
Really? No, I had not
yeah,
either.
they were separate roles, because I guess the idea was like He Who Remains could have been a much older actor, or like
It's a
not-
different character in the comic books.
Well, the other
Yeah.
thing is, we don't know if the guy we saw in this series is actually Kang, or if Kang will be an alternate version of him, or variant.
Well, I mean, they've confirmed. I mean, you can see that this is Kang. Kang is very complicated. They confirmed, like, yeah, this is Kang, but Kang has like dozens of different versions and iterations because he's so old. Like the very old version of him would be like Immortus, who's like the kind of Kang that's sort of like come around, because he's been around for so long. So like they never like specifically dropped his name, but like production people have been like, oh yeah, I mean yeah, he's Kang, but like just watch and see. So I think that they're probably going to try to make a differentiation between like Kang, like the younger, the Conqueror, like the multiversal, type of guy, and several other versions of him that I'm sure we're going to see in various MCU films.
We'll see.
I mean, I'd agree with most of you guys. I give this like a 5 out of 6. I give it like like at least 3 time stones, a space stone, a soul stone, Loki. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm always down for more Loki because Tom Hiddleston is amazing, and he's really taken that character from someone who is probably just going to be in a couple Thor films, Avengers. They would just sort of use him here and there, and he's really evolved that character. And I'm interested to see, because what of course we have happened in the MCU is his character growth through Thor Ragnarok, and then his death. And then you're like, well, crap, he's finally sort of gotten over himself, and now he's gone. And now we get to see sort of an earlier version of Loki, kind of doing the same thing in a different way. But still able to stick around. He's gonna have another season. He's gonna be in more films. I'm sure. I'm sure he'll probably show up in Doctor Strange. I don't know. We'll see. All this stuff is coming so quickly, but I do think that this film benefits from having, or this show benefits from having the other two Disney Plus series out first. And I do think that, I think we talked about this with Winter Soldier, is that was supposed to be the first show, and then you were supposed to get WandaVision. And so I think WandaVision kind of like weirded a lot of people out, like with the I Love Lucy start, and they didn't know what to think, especially a lot of the kind of casual viewers, like, what the hell? And hopefully I think this show, brought a lot of them back in, to like, okay, like things are happening, like this whole series, takes place across the MCU, and there's so many Easter eggs and weaves things together. It's it's kind of hard to follow, but I do think this definitely, like the other shows would be easily bingeable, but this show I do think did benefit most from the weekly format, because you had like all of the the theory crafting people and stuff that have risen up around anything pop culture, which I mean, like for Winter Soldier was kind of like even for Wanda, like not as much to work with, but this was like, every week you've got time and space and like what's happening, and I think that really helped kind of build the hype machine. What did you guys think of the reveal of our alternate Lokis and our main variant Loki in female Loki? Did you guys think that was going to be different, or I mean, I think there have been like casting details or whatnot, but I don't know, because the powers were different, and I was still thinking like this could be the Enchantress maybe, which kind of was, and then that the way that whole relationship develops is I don't know, probably the most controversial part of the show, the self-cest at the end.
Yeah, what do you call that?
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Like
is it Jamie and Cersei, or is it like just like
right.
like bros? What is it? I don't know.
A more literal James Cersei.
I mean, I liked that they were just like connecting, and I was like, oh, they're gonna be friends, and like they're two versions of Loki trying to find kind of the best in themselves. I didn't expect the romance angle. We'll see how that goes.
It's kind of the ultimate narcissism, right?
I mean, it fits. It does. But like, I think it's like also kind of like very hedonistic to like the audience is like, ooh, like wait a second, like I don't know, I like this show, and I don't know how I feel about this part. I think you probably got a fair amount of that. But
when they hook up, is that masturbation?
that's what I'm saying. Like how I mean, like so these are the questions. But then you've got like Hulk looking Loki, and you got Kid Loki and Alligator. There's all these different versions that are so different. Like I don't know.
Alligator.
President Loki. That's fun.
Yeah, I don't really know how to. Yeah, they're also different. I mean, the one Loki we get that's kind of similar is it was like the conniving, president-looking Loki guy. The only one played by Tom Hiddleston, right? Other than the main guy.
Right.
And then we got old Loki, who's kind of like the had the comic comic costume, and
Right.
like, how did he get old? And then because it's I don't know, people get trapped in time and space and dimension, and but then the Avengers went to a different dimension, but there were no multiverses because Kang was controlling. It's like, wait a second, it's all very I don't know. It's concepts you're not supposed to be able to like make sense of entirely.
No, I think the idea is that He Who Remains was pruning those timelines that the Avengers may have created.
Well, but then what about Steve Rogers, who goes into the past, and we're not sure if he was in an alternate timeline? He must have been, or was he in our timeline?
Oh, I think they've
There's something
just
Black
not resolved
Widow
that.
was yeah, yeah.
Well, they
Not that any of that matters particularly.
right. Doesn't really.
No.
Yeah.
But I think those are the things that kind of people, they get in their head, like, wait a second. But yeah, it was a nice. I mean, like, so let's see, we got 6 episodes here. The first episode is our throwback to Avengers Loki. rascal Loki still, glorious purpose and all that, which was fun. It was nice seeing him taken apart so quickly once
Right.
once he gets into the TVA.
He
It's like,
gets
no, 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 no.
put in his place really quickly.
Yeah. Like, well, no, I'm not taking my clothes off. Psh, wait a second. What?
Yep.
Sign this. This is everything you've ever said. What? Oh, no. Like, so, like, he just, like, shuts him up with, like, some bureaucracy. It's kind of funny. Yeah, and just following, revelations of his, what's supposed to be his intended death, and let's see, what else did we find out from Owen Wilson from Mobius? Oh, he was DB Cooper. Stupid little stuff like that. Although that one kind of bothered me because he was like, oh, he's like, I was young and I thought it was fun, and I'm like, aren't they all like 1,000 years old or something? Like, Asgardians, like, they wouldn't have been young in the 70s, right? I don't know. Seems weird.
Yeah, but I think they all just started developing as people in the last like 10 years.
Right? They just were like stuck in their ways for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, I guess they don't really try to cover that much, but when we run into Thor, in the first movie, he's supposed to be this kind of like impetuous youth, and you're like, how old is he? So
1,500 years old.
right? Well, he's just now getting around to it, yeah. But I mean, Hiddleston clearly loves this role, and hopefully they find things that make sense to use him in it for a long time. As long as it doesn't get stale, I'm happy to have him around doing things in some form.
Yeah, I think for the first episode, I think the smartest thing they did was to just kind of use that movie and It's a Wonderful Life thing to just do some rapid fire character development, to kind of like put him more in line with the guy we knew in Infinity War and Endgame, just because for me with something like this, I really am not a fan of character resets, after we've watched them go through like all that type of growth just to bring him back to the beginning. So I'm very glad that they did that so that we could kind of, just hand wave that away and have him be more like
Well,
the
I
character
think
where we left
I
him.
think the implication is supposed to be that, like, I mean, underneath he was this person, this potential all along, but he discovers his parentage and he's angry at Thor and he's angry at Odin, but deep down, like, he loves his mother, he loves his family.
Right, yeah, and
it's all kind of down under there, and then when you just show him, like, hey, look, this is what you go through, and it comes out, like, hey, you don't have to be a little shit, basically.
yeah, and that's certainly one of the themes here, especially with Sylvie too, as well. It's not specifically stated. I think it's heavily implied that one of the reasons she was pruned is that she was on a less evil, manipulative path and more on the side of heroic path. So that's definitely something that they wanted to explore and discuss throughout the season.
I also find it along the lines of why Loki's get pruned, I find it interesting that actually killing Thor, though, also gets you pruned.
Yeah, Kid Loki killed his Thor. There's a lot of things that Kang is not happy with, I guess, for various reasons. So I'm sure they'll give us more information on that. But I don't know, the whole setup with the TVA is very weird. I mean, it's supposed to be, but I do like how quickly they get to the point. Like, we need you to help us hunt you, and then it's not really you, and then he has to discover, like they're hiding out in cataclysmic events, right?
Right.
Where is it? Where did they go? They went to Pompeii, and he said, "Just wait, just let's see." Like, you're all about to die, like in typical Loki style. Let me just see how much I can mess things up. See, it's not doing anything, And Owen Wilson's very Owen Wilson in this. I'll say that. Yeah. So I mean, obviously we knew that something was wrong with the TVA. They talk about the sacred timeline and how they've created all the agents there, and something's not right. And then later on we get the reveal that they are all just variants pulled from timelines, and then their memories are wiped, and we meet the fake timekeepers who get their robot heads ripped off, and it's all very weird. I mean, like, the production value there is great. I mean, it looks like a scene. I mean, it looks like it could be from Guardians of the Galaxy or any of the Marvel cosmic stuff, And then we're like, oh nope, it's your princess is in another castle. Don't pay attention to the guy behind the curtain, sort of thing. And then what's her name?
Ravonna.
Yeah, Renslayer, right?
Yeah, or Renslayer.
Yeah, she so she doesn't know what's going on, right? But all of this gets revealed, and she has a very different reaction. Like Mobius is like, well, this is wrong, and we've got to try to fix this, and we got to get to the bottom of this. And her reaction is more like personal slight, and she wants to kind of maintain control and maintain the status quo until she figures out what she wants to do, basically. And then, of course, the true villain of the show, Miss Minutes, helps her along that path. Who is, I think she's voiced by Tara Strong, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent voice actress. Yeah, I don't know. I never really liked that thing. Very creepy. I rewatched after the finale. I rewatched the first couple of episodes, and the video and the time war, all this stuff has like a new context once you get through all this. It's I mean, it was always kind of creepy, but now it's like extra creepy.
Speaking of Miss Minutes, if you look on IMDb, they give her. There's two different women credited as her. They actually had a different person reading her on-set lines. A different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was looking on there.
Stand-in.
Yeah, it says like Miss Minutes, and then there's Lauren Rivard as Miss Minutes on-set reader.
Oh, they don't usually do that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, that makes sense for, obviously they would record her lines in the booth. And yeah, then
Yeah, you have to have someone, but they don't usually like credit the stand-in. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, because look, I'm looking at the wiki right here. Like, Jamie Alexander's uncredited for her Sif cameo. So that seems a little weird to me. But yeah, also that was one of the better scenes, like being trapped in the like time jail. Right. Jamie Alexander comes in and just like lays him down over and over again.
Yeah, I hope she's able to come back into the films now that like her show is done.
Was the show she was on over?
I think so.
I know. I mean, that's why she left, because that was like big successful.
Yeah, no, it went
network
for
show.
it went for like 5 seasons, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It would be nice. She was noticeably absent from Ragnarok and one of the few people that was not murdered. So she could have been off world or something. So what did you guys think about the little melty sticks they had? Like in the end, it gets revealed that it just sends them, to the end of time with our smoke monster. What was that called? Elias.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep. So it is Elias.
I was thinking it was some weird name. Yeah. So they basically, pruning just like teleports them to the future, and they immediately get eaten by this thing. But it's also kind of like brutal because they think they're just erasing people from existence, and they use it a lot. Like in the first episode, you get the dude who's like, I forget, but he's like, from Goldman Sachs or something. He's like, my dad has a lot of money. And you're like, oops, bro got wiped. Like I really want to know what his like Nexus event was. Like what does this guy do that gets him pulled into the TVA and wiped?
Some kind of next level insider trading.
It's like they don't even give him a ticket. Like he's like, they told the guy to give me a ticket. They never did. They just wiped him. Like, it was kind of funny. But
Yeah, that was definitely, it was one of those interesting things going along where, seeing them, and then we get to, I think it's, episode 4. And then Owen Wilson gets wiped. You're like, interesting. Okay. I could actually, because, he's a big name actor. Maybe he only signed on for a season here. I could see him, getting wiped. Yeah, it's a bold choice. And then Loki gets wiped. You're like, oh, okay.
They're not really going to kill him. They're not killing everyone.
yeah, and I like the way they did the end of that in the credits scene where you actually see Loki waking up with the other Lokis around instead of people having to wonder for a week or I think it was the right mix of cliffhanger. I mean, I think most of these episodes were the right mix of kind of cliffhanger and also like letting you know what's coming so that you're not like too out in the dark about it and you don't have to like go into some really weird crazy tangent. So I like that. I did think the whole alternate Lokis being the like Mad Max leftovers at the end of time was kind of fun.
Particular shout out to Richard E. Grant. Like,
I was going to say,
so good.
A masterful performance in that episode.
He kind of stole the show.
Yeah,
he did, and I mean the whole. I mean, he basically conjures all of Asgard, right? And I think that's part of what shows our Loki Prime. Him and Sylvie are like, we can do this, and it's like saying like, I think we're stronger than we realize we are. If we apply ourselves, if we basically Loki never does anything that's all that hard. He's always trying to get other people to do the hard work for him, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I didn't like. I think you'd said this at the time, Matt, but I didn't want them to like show up and then suddenly like, they're like, we've had this sort of buddy cop thing going on, and then like, suddenly Sylvie and Loki are at odds, which is sort of what happened. The way they did it worked. I don't want that, but yeah.
Yeah, my point with that comment was, it needed to feel like, I guess earned is the overused term, but like it just needed to fit with where their character progression is going. Basically, I didn't want them to be at odds in order just to extend the storyline into another season or film.
Or to just straight up betray each other and say, hey, we were all, none of this was real.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Because it ends on the note of like where they did make a real connection. And
the kiss.
They do want each other to succeed, but then she's just like, no, I can't step away from my goal, It's kind of where that comes down.
The kiss into betrayal, I thought, was perfect.
Yeah. And then, of course, we talked a little bit about Jonathan Majors, and at the moment, he's just He Who Remains, which, as I said, is a different character in the comics. I didn't realize they would like casting it different. Maybe that was like they were like, we're going to have an older actor as sort of like a backdoor, so you wouldn't realize who it was, sort of thing. But they clearly want this person to be Kang related. So. And what do you guys know about Kang? Just the history of the character. Like, how much do you guys know about the comic versions?
I mean, not like too much. I mean, I think I've probably stated before. Like, I don't, I don't read a lot of comics. Never have. Like, this is, most of my knowledge just comes from Googling shit.
Right.
Just because I like to do that. So it's just like, like I know. I've known for a while he was going to be the next villain. It made sense as to feel like he's one of the only people that could follow Thanos in terms of being a villain of the world. And, he's a time conqueror and has a bunch of different stuff. And, it just seemed like a fun time.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm the same way. I don't read a ton of comic books. I've read, in the past, but no one can keep up with that. I've read a lot of the more kind of classic stuff, but definitely like the Marvel wikis and whatnot. I mean, that's like, I think a lot of us do deep dives on that, and you can kind of get a lot of information that way. But Kang is, he's always been kind of like a primary Avengers villain, traveling through time. He usually shows up, I think his first appearance he was showing up because he like the Avengers were fucking up some shit in the future, so he wanted to like take him out in the past sort of deal. But yeah, he's got a lot of history, a lot of different versions. The original version, which I think is kind of what we saw in part of the monologue, he didn't name any names, but was just a basic scientist, somewhere hundreds of years in the future. If I remember correctly, he's a descendant of Reed Richards.
Yeah, supposedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Reed's
But I mean,
father.
like,
It's Reed's father.
way down the line.
Nathaniel
Huh?
Richards, his father. Nathaniel Richards, Reed's father.
No, I thought that
Kang's
his
from-
original was a descendant like several generations down, if I remember correctly. But Nathaniel was Richard's father's name, right? And we're going to be getting
Right.
Fantastic Four pretty soon, so I'm sure that in some way, he's going to show up there, obviously. I mean, he's supposed to show up in Ant-Man. I think that was supposed to be his first appearance. I wouldn't be surprised if, obviously in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we get Kang or, some version therein. So,
The one of the thoughts in the theory sphere is that he might be a descendant of Tony Stark instead of Reed Richards, which
yeah,
would kind
I saw
of
that.
make sense in universe, given that they really like to put the whole like Tony tries to play God, and these are the things that like it never works out. But then also, I don't know, if you're bringing in Reed Richards, it seems like a good thing to go ahead and get
Right,
as many
because
Fantastic
you're not
Four
going to get
connections
Robert
as you
Downey
can.
Jr., to come back
Yeah.
forever.
Right.
It
And
could
you
be
have
a
to
way
pay him
to,
too much. And you have to pay him
yeah.
too much.
Yeah, and he's getting old. I mean, I think so. Like, what Dave Bautista said, like, after this next, Guardians of the Galaxy, he's out, and people were like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, look, it's like he's following, James Gunn. He's like, we're doing a trilogy. I'm gonna be done with that." He's like, "I'm also like 55, and it's
Yeah.
hard to like stay in that shirtless body shape, and sometimes it's you might just have to recast or move on from some of these characters just because of real world concerns like that, but." It wouldn't surprise me if they connect him because, what do we have? Tony created Ultron instead of Hank Pym, and the universe is very centered around Iron Man because it really made the MCU a success. With that movie and just with Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal. There was also an Iron Man helmet on his in the library there. There was a bunch of artifacts, and one of the only ones that's kind of recognizable is like an Iron Man helmet. So, so clearly he's got at the very least some sort of appreciation for Tony Stark. I mean, no, Tony Stark figures out the time travel thing in Endgame, right? So I mean, all of this could have come from kind of that research that could have been the source of Kang's power. In the future, he rediscovers Tony's research or something. I can see that. But I was kind of surprised at how weak he seemed here.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not really in uniform. He doesn't really have any of his fancy gadgets. But I think that they do a good job of explaining. He's just sort of at the end, and he's just it's like if you live forever and you're kind of just over it, and maybe someone else takes another chance, or maybe you join me, or you know what, I don't even care. It'll all figure itself out. I'm just done. He had his one little time pad that he'd programmed with all this stuff. And then he's like, I don't know what happened to me on this. You gonna stab me? I don't know, man.
He just needed the one gadget in order to get his monologue out. He didn't need anything else. No one else was
Doesn't
going
need
to
the
come
force shields or the
visit him.
blasters or yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I thought that was a pretty masterful way of making him intimidating, but also kind of a vulnerable human character at the same time. So, yeah, I really look forward to what's going on. I do hope we also get Dr. Doom at some point, though. We'll see. I assume we will with Fantastic Four, but Kang's a good kind of like phase wide, villain because he can affect so much.
Mm-hmm. I really loved the set for He Who Remains' castle. Like Like just the way, I mean, it was so cool, but then you could like see cracks in the floor and like crumbling statues and just sort of,
Like the weird kind of like spider webby nature of stuff. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
just like it was so magical, but also like run down in a certain way. Like it felt like when you step into like a mansion from the 20s that needs a reno, like, but
Yes.
the magical version of that, like it was just, I thought it just kind of put you in the, like, visually conveyed exactly where He Who Remains
Hmm.
was, you know?
They talked about that a little bit on there's like a making of on Disney Plus, and they went into a bit of like the set design, and I mean, yeah, it's this is what I really like about these shows. Unlike some of the past Marvel efforts, like even like like Daredevil, for instance, and which was a great show, but you could tell the budget was much lower. There was no consistency in like artistic style. Same thing with like Agents of Shield and all that. You oftentimes felt like ooh they can't really do everything they want to do, but here it feels like they can and they are doing more or less the same on the same level as what the films are going to do. Some of these sets might get reused in the films. Who knows? So it does feel like they're not being held back, which is nice.
Speaking of holding back, one thing I think is really cool is how, complex and complicated nerd culture movies and TV shows are getting, when it comes to time travel. I mean, I remember back in the 80s when DC Comics decided that their multiverse was too complicated for the fans, so they did the Crisis to like compact it down to one universe so we wouldn't confuse new readers and all that. And now
Right.
it's just a given. Like, you used to be whenever you did anything time travel or parallel universe, you had to have a long like monologue to explain it to new readers or viewers, but now it's just assumed you understand this concept. You get thrown right in and you get it like right away. I mean, we certainly did get some exposition of the whole like TVA and what it was and all that. But I mean, it's kind of just it's assumed that audiences are now more sophisticated. We've been exposed certainly to a lot more than we ever have, and I think and the good thing is that not only are people buying it and understanding it, but they're enjoying it and engaging with it,
Hmm.
which is kind of cool.
And I think that was a problem for a long time, is things being dumbed down because they're just like, well,
Right.
the most basic person won't get it. And I think part of it too is also they're finding that people that don't get it, they'll ask their friends, they'll go online, there'll be a YouTube video,
Right.
they'll engage more with the content if they're interested in it, if it's done well.
Yeah.
And whereas before it used to feel like, they dumbed it down, they treated us like idiots, like you can't handle this, you can't handle
Right.
that. I mean, even so, this is like an aside, spoilers ish, not really, but like my son and I, we went and saw Free Guy the other day, and it's a video game world, and Ryan Reynolds is an NPC that basically like becomes aware, right? And it's a very simplified movie. It's not like high concept or anything like that, but it's mostly aimed at kind of the younger video game Fortnite kind of generation, and it also does a good job of bringing in a little bit of these kind of a little more heady concepts of like, well, what is life? What does it mean to be real? Even if you're just data, artificial intelligence, that sort of thing. Whereas, you would never really see that in one of these kind of like silly, action movies before. It'd be like, like it would be like really, really basic. And I feel like they are treating the audiences like they're a little bit smarter, or I should say, some studios are treating the audiences like they're smarter.
Right.
Not all of them, but.
Yeah, and I think part of it goes to just sort of our consumption of media in general. Like, I think people in general are just more comfortable watching something where they don't know everything that's going on. Like, we
Mm.
we we're so much more inundated and have so many more options. It's like everything I watch, I don't have time to like fully understand. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time to look up a bunch of characters and figure out the stuff I missed. Like, there's just going to be some stuff out there that I watch and I enjoy, and and
Like you accept just being like, I don't know,
yep, yeah. I mean, there's like, you look at Game of Thrones, and how many people loved that show and could not tell you the names of 3/4 of the characters. And like I understand
Right.
I understand that's like an exception in TV that there's so many characters on that show, but like
But there was the weekly conversation at work of people who were like, "I love Game of Thrones." Like, yeah, so the guy at the place, he's got the hair,
Yeah.
and you're
Right,
like,
right.
like
You're
that
like,
was we
duh.
all know, right?
yeah, people that call Daenerys Khaleesi and
Yeah, you'd be like,
know.
you're talking about Walter Frey. Yeah, that's the one. Okay,
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
continue talking.
Oh yeah, it's funny. One of the girls at work just started watching Game of Thrones, and we were talking a little bit, and I'd be like John, and she'd be like, wait, which one's that? I'm like, oh come on, you don't know who Jon Snow is? Like, come on, like you're 4 seasons in, and you don't even know his name yet. Like,
I mean, he don't even want to be on the show, so it's fine. It's easy to forget him.
never mind getting into the third Frey kid.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's weird because like even some of these like weird background characters like Game of Thrones or something else like people will like I don't know who that person is or what their name is, but like they know what they did and they're like, oh, I really liked that guy. Like they'll still engage. So I mean I think you throw stuff at the wall and some of it doesn't work and whatever. But it's easy to miss stuff on these shows too, especially if you're looking at your phone while you're watching or I mean there's certain shows that demand you just kind of have to pay attention. And I think like a show like Loki, like you really just have to watch because there's a lot of visual cues in there. There's Easter eggs, but if you're wanting to actually see what's happening or maybe see stuff that kind of gets revealed later and realize they were planting seeds, like you have to just be paying attention. And most people don't pay attention when they watch stuff most of the time, right? Half the time you're listening to it.
And if you're not, there'll always be the YouTube Loki's ending explained video someone does.
Is there anything in particular that the rest of you guys want to discuss as far as concepts of the show? What it means for going forward into the next phase, or just how awesome it was to get all these different versions of one character and get some complicated relationships and.
Yeah,
do you think we'll see any of these Lokis again?
Oh well, Sophia
other ones.
DiMartino for sure.
Right. Her,
Yeah.
obviously her, but any of the other ones?
I think Kid Loki probably because there seems to be young
Kid
Avengers.
Loki's a gangster.
I think they'll probably recast Kid Loki, but
Oh, you think?
Yeah, I mean,
He'll get too old too quickly.
He's just gonna show up and be like, "I killed Thor, yo."
Also, like they didn't like let that kid talk hardly at all. It seemed like they didn't really trust him as an actor.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything else. Let's
He's that show End of the Fucking World that's on Netflix. I think that's the name of it. He's the like kid version of the main character. I spent like all of the episodes he was in being like, who is this kid? I know him.
That's what IMDb's for.
Yeah. Figured it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
I might see him again.
Yeah, I think there will be a Kid Loki. I just don't know if it'd be him or not. But
what if Black Loki, who had like, what was that hammer?
oh,
What? I mean, what else did he?
Oh, Proud Loki. That's what his name was.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know there was like an official name for any of them. But he had like a hammer that was like a wrench or something. Like it wasn't Mjolnir. I'm curious about that.
no idea. It was just another specialized weapon.
We'll probably never see him again, unfortunately. But like, I mean, I'm the guy that's like, you know what? I just give me like a website that tells you a little bit about each of these guys.
Right.
Like where did the hammer come from? What's that about? That's all I need. I'm good with that. I just want a little bit more because it's like so odd. Like maybe he killed Thor and took Mjolnir, but that's not Mjolnir, or maybe it is in his world, or or like was that even made in Asgard? It looks kind of weird. So I don't know. Where is Sylvie gonna show up next?
I think maybe, like, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to mention. Well, number one, I don't think we gave Sophia Di Martino like enough of her due. With stuff like Wanda and Falcon, like we knew going in where they were going at. Like we knew for sure that Wanda was going to be in Doctor Strange, and that likely that there was going to be a Captain America 4. But it was just like where we were going to see these particular characters again, if at all, was unknown. And especially when they introduced such a great character as what Sylvie turned out to be. As well as having Owen Wilson and Gugu in the MCU. Like those are obviously two great actors. So I was very happy that like we just like got a confirmed thing that like, hey, we're definitely going to see these guys again, and because like they can produce, the sets of movies they have coming are fairly set in stone, pretty far out. But like with a TV show, that could come within the next year or two, and it isn't affected by the release schedule of movies. So I feel like we'll get them within there, and but I do kind of expect that we would probably likely see them next in a TV show before we see them in the films again. But, depending on when Love and Thunder comes out.
Well, I mean, I feel like, Sylvie, I just don't know. I mean, she might be on the next season, but I feel like Loki we're gonna see. I mean, I think there's a good chance we see him in Doctor Strange, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's hard to say. I do think it's a little. Well, just the whole situation is a little odd right now. But I mean, that's like Kevin Feige. One of his big, responses whenever people would talk about Shield or something, like how come they don't interact? And he's like, oh yeah, the TV shows, they move at a different pace. We just can't plan around that. Which is kind of bullshit, right? We're finding out, and I think we kind of always knew that. Because the TV shows move at a quicker pace, which means that like you just kind of have to do their stuff last, and you can insert those as long as you plan it. You can insert those interactions, and time them right. While the TV show's going on, you can bring in someone from the movies and vice versa. And you just gotta kind of set it up and in a way that you can change it, I guess, if you also want to change it later. But so I think we'll see more back and forth of that eventually.
I wonder if we're going to see any of the other Lokis appear in other movies or TV shows without the regular Loki, without Hiddleston. Oh, speaking of which, by the way, the one that you were calling Proud Loki, according to Wikipedia, and I don't know if this is official, like if they're getting
Boastful.
is Boastful Loki.
Boastful Loki. Okay.
And old Loki is Classic Loki.
Classic. Yeah, that's what they were. Yeah, that's just what their credits said. Like in
does Classic Loki? Is he made with real sugar?
Right.
Boastful Loki. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always down to see more Lokis too. Like the Hulk Loki could show up somewhere. That'd be fun. It's fine. But apparently, like Lokis just don't like fucking Kang messing with shit. They're like they want to do their own thing. So.
Well, it's because he's the wild card. Like you can't when you're trying to like keep the universe on track, you can't have the fucking wild card.
Right.
Yeah.
Cut the brakes.
He is the god of mischief, right? So, yeah. Some of them, like the one shot with like all of the Lokis that show up to for the Loki War. Like some of those, I have no clue. Like Loki with the handlebars for antlers. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of weird Lokis.
Low key.
One thing for merchandising, think about how many action figures they can get out of Loki now. You can have every single one of them. I'm amazed they haven't already put out Alligator Loki.
Patrick's Day President Loki. I need that action figure for sure. Come on, Hasbro, make it happen.
I'm amazed we haven't gotten a stuffed alligator Loki.
Oh, that's gonna happen. But that's like, you've seen the way Disney is. Like, remember Baby Yoda? Like, they didn't want anyone to know there was a Baby Yoda, so they just didn't plan any merchandise when The Mandalorian came out.
Right.
But there'd be no leaks because merchandise has to be planned a year or two in advance, and that stuff leaks. So, people were making Baby Yodas and stuff on Etsy for like a year until they got the official product out, which is crazy.
And when the first ones
Disney killed
leaked and the first ones like came officially out, they like sold out online instantly.
Like Disney knows like you're gonna buy our shit. Right. So like they were like, we'd rather have the surprise than have the merchandise sales today or whatever. Then they know they got us by the balls. They
Whether
own
we
like
get it, whether they get
90%
our
of
sales,
IP.
whether they get the sale this week or next month doesn't really matter all that much to them because they're going to get it.
Yeah. Yep. So season 2, I guess let's talk about the ending here when Loki gets back to what we think is the TVA, and he finds Mobius, and it's like, urgency, here's what's going on. I'm gonna clue you in, and everything's going crazy. And Owen Wilson's like, are you an analyst? Who are you? And then we realize something's wrong, and it ends with the shot of, instead of the Time Masters, it's a giant statue of King, and something's gone awry somewhere along the timeline. And that's the what is it? Is it the Chronopolis, or what is it? Trying to remember. King's like fortress in the comic books. I think that's what people thought the TVA was the whole time. Anyway, but it's like Chronopolis or something like that. But
yeah, that sounds right. Just a mix of Chrono and adding Opolis to the end.
Yeah.
Do we think like Owen Wilson is signed for season 2, or is he going to be doing like too busy with like Marley and Me 2 or something?
No, I imagine that they would have legitimately killed him off if he wasn't gonna be on for season.
I don't know, enough about the contracts at the moment with all these, and there's always speculation and whatnot about that. But they did say recently that they're moving away from like signing people to just these nebulous 10-movie deals or whatever,
Right.
As they did forever.
Right, yeah.
Was they'd sign, Samuel L. Jackson signs on for 15 movies, and Chris Hemsworth, you're doing 6, and Chris Evans, and I think because what they've realized is it creates some bitterness in those actors. You might get people when they're younger or when they're less marketable, then they get in your movies and they're this big bankable star, and they're like, well, why am I still making this money, for the next 3 films that I signed on for, back here?
Which of course was the plan. Which was the plan all along, from Marvel's point of view.
Right,
we want you when you're cheap.
They wanted cheap people, and even Robert Downey Jr. They didn't want him initially. Jon Favreau really had to push, and he signed. It was a fairly favorable contract for Marvel, but they wanted him around so much. They wanted to add him to movies. They put him in Civil War. They did all this, and so when it came time to renegotiate, they backed up the money truck for him. So they said their look, into the future now is like signing people, on sort of like a case-by-case basis, but like just finding people that like want to be part of the MCU, and they'll bring them in for a movie or two, and then if the character works, if they want to stay, they'll keep them longer, and they'll just negotiate as they go and pay people, which is a big change from, I guess they've got the money to do it, and we all know that, but they were trying to get off on the cheap side with some of these people, so and then of course what happened with Black Widow,
or kill off Quicksilver after 2 movies.
Yeah, but honestly, like, I get it that it creates bitterness. Generally, I'm going to favor labor over capital, but like, come on, MCU stars, like Chris Hemsworth, you were nothing, and then the MCU made you and
Chris Hemsworth
$20 million.
Chris Hemsworth isn't very good outside of the MCU. Like, no offense, I love Chris Hemsworth, but like most of his other movies, like if he does something that's got like a comedic twinge to it, like in like the Ghostbusters movie, like he was funny in that, right? But like when he tries to like be serious, it just doesn't work usually. I don't know.
Yeah, I like 2 of his recent movies. He had I liked both El Royale and the action thing on Netflix. Like I like both. Extraction. Like I like both of those.
El Royale wasn't bad actually. Extraction was kind of so. Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, like, you're acting like they got a raw deal because they maybe have to make 1 or 2 movies at a lower rate when they only command $20 million a movie because of Marvel.
Like, no, you're absolutely right. I don't think that, like, it's the the athlete argument of like, well, billionaires and millionaires arguing, and none of us really care about it. But at the same time, like a pro sports team can say, "Oh, I'm just getting a new quarterback," and Marvel has done that. Like they changed out Terrence Howard pretty early on. but it seems like they do not want to recast as much as possible. So I think they would rather have people that they can keep happy and not have to deal with that. No, I'm not saying that the actors are all justified and, like I should get $1 billion. They might be wrong. I don't know enough about, their deals on that end. But the fact is that if those feelings come up and then like they don't want to do it and you've got a plan for them for 2 more movies, that kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think that's probably what they're looking at.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter what's right or wrong or who got a fair shake. You just got to deal with the reality of
We're
the
dealing
leverage
with
people
prima
have.
donna. Yeah.
And if you don't, you can be like Scarlett Johansson and sue them.
Yeah, and I think, and it's really weird because like the Scarlett Johansson situation, which I'm sure everyone knows, is Black Widow was supposed to come out last year, and then the pandemic pushed it back, a whole year. And she part of her compensation is obviously, it's very typical for the star. They get some money on the back end based off the box office. And so they released it in the theater, but also, you can pay the premium on Disney Plus and get it for $30 at home. And so her argument is as well that that cut into the theater sales. That's why it didn't do great. They're saying it's the worst performing Marvel movie, etc. But it's also like the best performing movie of the year
Right.
for 2021, and since the pandemic started. So I think there's still a bit of hesitancy of people to go to the movie theater and whatnot. I don't know if they're just not cutting her in on the Disney Plus money. I would assume they would have. I know
Not as much, apparently.
Apparently not enough. And I mean, this is what you do: is you sue and you figure it out. And I don't know if it necessarily needs to be this big of a deal. Like they'll sort it out. But I know Warner Brothers, when they decided to put all of their films for 2021 on HBO Max, they went to Denzel. They went to everyone and they paid them extra. They said, you're not going to get your back end, and they might not have anyway because the movies might not have performed very well this year.
Right.
And so they made them happy. And they even paid the cast and the crew. I think they gave everyone who worked on the film like a 20% bonus, which like has nothing to do. I don't know. I don't think they usually get back end on that, or I don't know if there's a bonus structure for them. But like they basically went to everyone and said, we're just going to make this right ahead of time and spend the money and deal with it, and it allows them to grow their streaming service. So, I mean, I do think that like movies like Suicide Squad are probably suffering from the fact that everyone can just watch it at home for a service they already pay for, which is what I did. I mean, I didn't go to the theater, but if I could only go to the theater, I probably would have.
Well, I don't think the other problem, of course, is you have to plan these things out a year or 2 ahead of time. And I mean, obviously, the bigger plans are like 5 years ahead. But I mean, who knew we were going to have a pandemic that would shut down movie theaters and the world? And who knows what's going to happen next month or even next week? You have to
Right.
make these plans long term. We have to release this movie at some point, and we don't know what the world's going to look like. I mean, Black Widow got lucky because it was in that little window where it looked like everything was getting better and we were done with this shit. And then, oh shit, Delta variant hit. So now like things are bad again. And unfortunately, Suicide Squad got released in the latter end of that. Once we were back in, maybe we shouldn't be sitting in theaters with 500 people.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some decent money coming at the box office. It's not normal summer blockbuster money that we got.
I'm not even close. We're not even
No.
I mean,
but like before, movies were making like 5 million maybe, and you can still get like, I mean, Suicide Squad made 20 or 30 million or something, which that's a movie you would want to make 50 to 100 probably. I don't know. But
I mean, Ant-Man and Wasp made over $1 billion, made close to $1 billion. Black Widow, even when you add in everything from Disney Plus, isn't going to come to even 20% of that.
Yeah, but I mean, Black Widow had an $80 million opening weekend, which is significant. I mean, if you go back 10 years ago, there weren't a dozen films that had that big of an opening weekend. So I don't know. I think that the bigger picture with releasing these movies and getting them out, whether it be streaming or in the theaters, is something that maybe some of the actors aren't considering, and hopefully the studios are. It's preserving jobs. It's preserving future work, because we used to release 2 movies a week, right, in a theater.
Right.
And at a certain point, there were 4, 5, 6, 10 movies being released. Limited release, whatever, like theatrical movies. And so now you've got this slate that's been produced, but like wasn't getting put out during the pandemic. It's got to get out there, because if it doesn't get out now, it gets out in a year. Well, what does that do? That means everything that's supposed to come out in a year has to get pushed back. Then you get projects that are canceled. People lose jobs. So I mean, it's a domino effect for the industry if you don't get these movies out. like literally like people's livelihoods, get stalled, like the people that actually make these films. So, you might have to suffer in the short term, and we all know that, right?
Right. And also it's important to remember that a lot of the financial consideration for these companies now is in getting long-term subscribers for their streaming services. I mean, if Black Widow gets them another 5 million subscribers that are paying $80 a year for the next 10 years, then that made
Right,
them a
right.
ton of money, and she may not see the benefit of all of that. And
And yeah, and how do you track that? And I
right.
do also think it's unfortunate that it was Black Widow that like had to be the first one to go, and
Right.
that got especially considering like she probably
Timing.
should have gotten a movie a year or two earlier than what she
Right.
did, and
Right.
so it just I'm part
Had
of that
nothing-
probably that's probably part of it, and I'm sure they'll work it out, so.
And of course, the fact that she was dead. Spoilers: she was dead before the movie even came out. So the character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before they started making the movie, right?
Right.
I mean, they'd already killed her off. So,
Right.
like giving her a movie was sort of like a makeup. Like, we'll give you a movie.
Right. And then it turned out not so well. But I mean, all these things too. So that's the other thing is, Loki and all that is probably bringing in millions of new subscribers. Who, everyone's talking about it. I gotta, Farrah missing out. I gotta get Disney Plus now.
What do you guys feel? So, like the Disney Plus model since like Mandalorian, they've been dropping the new shows on Fridays, which I mean, in the past, like for last several decades, Fridays was like sort of the traditional kind of like sci-fi nerd night. You put new stuff on Fridays because everyone's going out to the clubs, and you put your kind of like genre stuff out on Fridays. And then they started with Loki on Wednesdays, which for me worked out because it's my day off, and like I could wake up and watch the show, and like it was summer, so my son was off. We watched the show together. It was nice. But like, what do you think about that change?
It's probably good for those who work in an office or whatever, because you can talk to people at work about it, the next day.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really care one way or the other. Like, I watch them in the morning at work, whether or not it's a Wednesday or a Friday. So.
Right.
Well, we should be so lucky. I know I had some like WandaVision. There was some of them like I'm like watching them on my phone at lunch on Friday. Trying to like watch what I can. Not great. Then I have to watch it again when I get home. So, but yeah, I don't know why they made the move, but I'm sure they've got some numbers. They did say that Loki was like the most watched of their Disney Plus shows so far. So, but I think
that's been every series has been that. I mean,
because they're getting more
Winter Soldier,
right? Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah. So, which is a good sign. That's what they want.
I mean, WandaVision was that, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier was, and now this is. So,
like honestly, the switch might have just been because of Bad Batch, which I believe is also doing Wednesdays.
Wednesdays,
and they start on a Wednesday because that's the day that May the 4th was, and so it honestly might just have been that where they just they switched it for May the 4th, and then they just wanted all the subsequent stuff just to be on the same day. I mean, because there was a time where I think it was Falcon and Bad Batch were overlapping and whatnot. Or maybe it was Bad Batch and Loki or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, they could do like MCU Mondays or.
Yeah.
I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any sort of like, rhyme or reason, but it like you said, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
And of course, eventually, Marvel's going to be to the point where they can have 1 or 2 new shows every night. Like a network television. Where Tuesday is Loki night and Friday is Star Wars night, or Wednesday's Marvel night.
I'm happy with like one show a week. I think.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, they've had some of their other original shows. Like they did that Mighty Ducks revival. They did.
Well, I mean,
they've done a few other ones. Like more kid oriented, but like as far as like MCU and Star Wars stuff, like. I'd be happy to have either an MCU or a Star Wars show like every week. I'm fine with that. But then like if they had, 2 MCU shows and a Star Wars show in like 1 week, I kind of feel like it was getting to be a bit much.
Well, I mean, up till right now we had Loki and we had Bad Batch and we had Monsters at Work all coming out at the same time, and that's a pretty big series for them too, because Pixar is as big, if not bigger, than the other two in box office. So. I don't know how it's doing streaming, but I don't know what else.
Yeah,
Disney
so I
does.
mean, they've got so many shows coming up.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as Loki goes, and then maybe discuss some of the stuff that's upcoming real quick?
We'll have more to discuss when it comes out, season 2.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. All right. Well, thanks guys for joining me for another version of our little MCU chat here on VOK, and I'll look forward to reconvening probably over Shang-Chi. I would assume would be our next recording here, and we'll see what we've got. Maybe we could put Black Widow in with that once Kevin sees it. That'd be great.
What if?
Yeah, we
Or
could.
what if?
I could discuss what if with Shang-Chi too.
What
Yeah.
if? Oh yeah.
What
we
if
could watch
Kevin watched Black Widow?
what if Kevin watched the movie? But yeah, Kevin ain't gonna pay $30 to see that. At
Yeah,
home.
exactly. He's waiting for that 3 months to come around and then
Kevin
watch
ain't a
it.
family of 4. Kevin knows it's not value for him. All right, thanks guys.
October, only 6 weeks away.
Yep.
Thanks,
Later.
All right.
Do you
Well,
think we're gonna see Kang in like every movie, or do you think they're just gonna like they'll throw him in like Ant-Man and maybe Doctor Strange, and then whenever the next Avengers or Young Avengers comes out?
I mean, I think he'll be in whatever the Fantastic Four thing is. I think he might show up in some form, and like we don't realize it maybe in some of the movies, but because he could
Yeah, I mean,
show up in everything.
right. Obviously, we know he's going to be in Quantumania, but like in terms of the next thing, like, I mean, yeah, I think it's possible he shows up in Multiverse, but I bet it would only be as like a cameo at the end.
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
expect him to be like the main villain or to be.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a different villain.
But I expect him to be in there somewhere. Multiverse, I don't know who's going to be the main villain there. So
Right. We all want
let's
Mephisto,
see.
but who knows?
Well, let's see. Looking forward. Yeah, well, everybody wanted Mephisto for WandaVision, and that sort of didn't happen. But
I mean, I guess he could show up in Eternals. Like, we don't really know anything about that, so.
oh, that's right, Eternal. I was looking the other day at the movie release schedule, and there's like 3 more Marvel movies coming out this year. I was like, wait, what? Shang-Chi's coming out
Shang-Chi.
soon.
Spider-Man at the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi.
And that's going to be their first theatrical only movie since the pandemic. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, it looks like Marvel kung fu, might be all right. So I'm excited
for Shang-Chi. Yeah.
I'm hoping Fin Fang Foom is in there. We'll see. But I just don't know what they're gonna, what all they're gonna do, if they're gonna actually, try to unravel the Mandarin riddle, or how far they're gonna take any of that. But I think it'll be good. The main actor, I don't remember his name, but he's in Kim's Convenience. That's where I know him from. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, Sima Liu, I think.
Yeah, and I always love a good martial arts movie. And this is what I think is the nice thing about the MCU, is like you can have your political thriller and your superhero movie, and your spy thriller, your buddy cops, kung fu. Like you got it all. They've got a lot of avenues. They got something for everyone. But coming up, what is the next Disney Plus series? I know the next one I'm like really kind of paying attention to is Armor Wars, which is going to be great. Hopefully,
What If is on right now.
Right, yeah, obviously What If.
I guess, are we counting What If? I mean, so I guess we can talk about it a little
It
bit.
is officially.
What If
It's
just
not
started. It's animated and they're alternate tales, so they're not really, they don't affect anything within the MCU. But I mean, the first one was Captain Carter. I enjoyed that.
Mhm.
But I
mean,
kind of wasn't really thinking of it as like an MCU
I
show.
think they're officially calling it MCU.
Right. It's just, I mean, like it's just going to be a loosely thing where it's just like, here's a glimpses to some other possible like multiverses, but
I definitely
yeah,
feel like What If is more MCU than say like what was that MODOK was,
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know originally some of the cartoon stuff and certainly the Netflix stuff were under a different division at Marvel, like it wasn't under Feige and it wasn't part of the MCU, and they've now kind of brought everything in. It's one of the reasons why we're not getting any of those Netflix shows anymore.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they gave him full control over basically all of the on-screen product,
Right.
which is what he wanted. So.
Yeah. Like the only thing I will say is just like I just don't think that we'll see any kind of the plot points or characters from the What If like appear in the live action films.
Maybe.
No, yeah, I don't.
Or maybe in
expect to see,
Multiverse of Madness.
Captain America or something.
Multiverse of Madness would make sense too.
It would be cool to have Captain Carter.
Right. Yeah. As much as I
Yeah.
want to see, like, I just feel like Haley Atwell was just so wasted like across the MCU. Like as much as I want to like see her more in it, like I just doubt we'll get it.
Yeah. It's the hope that kills you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh no, Hawkeye's the next one. That's right.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Right.
Which is
That's right.
like I just I until that thing gets released, I'm afraid it's just gonna like crash and burn.
I know. Well, because there's so many rumors surrounding Hawkeye. But I mean,
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld's awesome, and you're gonna have
Right. Yeah. Obviously, I wanted to
Florence
succeed.
Pugh and what's his name, Jeremy Renner is going to be in it. I mean, so I think it'll be a nice, a little bit more down to earth Disney Plus show for them.
Right. Plus, we had the teaser in Black Widow
With Yelena. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yelena's
So
gonna be in it.
show up to kill. Spoilers. She's probably going to.
But
show
yeah,
up
I mean,
to
like
kill Hawkeye.
Yeah, and that's what they could do. Like honestly, like it could also just be used as a way to just get rid of Jeremy Renner if he's too much of a problem for him.
Oh gosh. I mean, I kind of like. I don't know. Jeremy Renner seems just like a nice guy, and Hawkeye's.
Right? Yeah, I'm not like
the big thing
Jeremy
for
Renner
years
is
that
not
they were
a
going to
nice
kill
guy.
Hawkeye. Huh?
Jeremy Renner is not a nice guy, but yeah.
Is he
Right,
not?
that was the issue. Like that's one of the issues.
Right.
Oh, is he like been a dick or something? Or I've not.
Yeah, I don't know detail. I don't remember details.
Oh, okay.
Well, so he had an app made. This is not the most serious, but it is the funniest. That he had an app made that was literally like it was like a Jeremy Renner social media app.
Interesting.
But the way they designed it was so that if someone sent you a message on there, it would say you would get the message and it would read like it came from Jeremy Renner. So there was like 24 hours of people just sending all kinds of things and tweeting them, and yeah.
It's like a weird vanity app.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's maybe some harassment allegations. Something I probably shouldn't just throw that out there, but
I know, right.
You're like, we're just assuming everyone's been Me Too'd at this point. I haven't looked into it, so I haven't really heard anything negative about him. I
don't think
there
it's
were rumors,
criminal.
people that thought he was like gay or something, and like I don't know why that was a thing. But like that's the only thing I ever remember.
There's a
Jeremy Renner scandal,
Apparently, there's a custody battle with his ex-wife that's getting nasty or something like that. So,
that
she's
stuff
accused him of
always gets nasty. Yeah,
threatening.
Hmm.
So that's what it is.
yeah.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that, I guess. But yeah, it's a natural point for him to just kind of not be doing these movies so much anymore anyway. With Black Widow dead, and he's getting a little older, and so regardless, I assumed he was kind of gonna not be around a ton. We're not getting an Avengers movie for a while, and by the time we do,
Right.
I mean, is he gonna
be alive? Will he even be alive?
Will he put the suit on? Yeah. Will the character be alive? I don't know. But we got Hawkeye coming up, which doesn't say how many episodes that's going to be for some reason, but that's in November. And then the Miss Marvel show, which I know is shooting right now by the end of the year, allegedly. And Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, which I still don't really understand how that's going to work. And then, all the stuff in the future, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Ironheart, Armor Wars. Armor Wars is the one I'm most interested in because it seems, you're going to have War Machine doing his thing. But they haven't really done anything on that, so I'm still worried that falls off the cliff or something, They decide not to do it, but hopefully they do.
According to IMDb, Hawkeye is 8 episodes, but I don't know if that's true. Or just someone did it.
I can believe that. Almost most of these say, are there going to be 6 episodes? This claims She-Hulk's going to be 10 episodes. I don't know why. But all this stuff can change. I feel like once things come out, we're like, wait, what? It's all very different. I mean, WandaVision ended up being 9 episodes. I thought it was supposed to be 8, and then these last 2 shows were 6 each. So, Yep. And the What If, I think one of the What If episodes was scrapped or something, or I don't know.